I do.
Oh, wow, that was a fast 2 hours.
That was fast.
It will go by.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to get into?
Well,
or
I'm all right skipping Mike Trout because I don't make a fool out of myself anyway because I don't know a lot
about
baseball these days.
All right. Well, you sent that to me originally. What was your thought on that?
Okay. Now I've got some stats here if you want to look at them, or if I can just make a couple general statements.
You start.
Okay, I'll start. All
Whatever you want to say.
All right, let me verify what y'all have said. Y'all think Mike Trout's overrated?
I do not think that he is one of the greatest players of all time. I do think he's one of the best players in today's game. Those two things can be the same thing.
Okay.
That's basically it.
I would say in the last 8 years, he's been the best position player in baseball.
That's if you want to argue that, that's I'm not arguing anything. I'm not arguing anything current.
No.
Oh, okay.
My deal is everything today on TV and everything in sports today is better than it used to be. And that's the way that and they have to promote it that way because they have to sell tickets. They have to sell jerseys and stuff. But if under that assumption, that means Jordan would be coming off the bench in the NBA today. At some point, there's a line where, hey, we're not everything today is better than it used to be, right? So if I look at you and Chris and say,
okay,
these two batters in their first 10 years, one has a better batting average, hits, home runs, doubles, RBIs, everything, every stat he has better than.
Less strikeouts.
He's got twice as less strikeouts. And the only thing the other guy has is he plays center field as opposed to first base, but he's got more walks. So that's the only thing. He's got more walks and more strikeouts. And the other guy's got more everything. And you're going to sit there and tell me that the guy with more walks and strikes out twice as much is better than the other guy.
All right,
based on WAR, a made-up stat.
I know y'all don't like the WAR formula.
It's the WAR.
Okay, so I'm not going to use WAR. I'm not going to use WAR. So, the last 3 years in a row, Mike Trout has led the AL in OPS. He's been over 1,000 all 3 years, which tells me the last 3 years he's been the most efficient batter when he's at the plate the last 3 years. Now, if you want to make a couple
now, is the most efficient batter the same as the most dangerous batter? For instance, would you rather have in left field Barry Bonds or Ricky Henderson? Would you rather have Babe Ruth or Ichiro? Or would you rather have, I don't know, in center field, just somebody besides Trout? You see what I mean? Would you rather have the guy that gets on base or the guy who knocks them in?
Well, actually, Barry Bonds at his prime, his on base would have been higher than Ichiro's anyway.
Well, Barry Bonds is the best, I think,
right.
ever.
Look, here's the thing. I think you're comparing Mike Trout to Albert Pujols.
That's one.
Okay.
No,
look.
what it is because that's an easy comparison because they're close in the years, and he's a right-handed hitter as well.
Well, Mike Trout has led the AL in RBI one time in his first 8 years, and I think runs. I can check here, but I think runs 3 times.
I've got those here in a second.
Pujols never led the NL his first 8 years in RBIs. I think he led it in runs maybe a couple times. But as I said, all right, not only the last 3 years, 4 of the last 5 years, Mike Trout has led the AL in OPS. There are 2 possible criticisms you could make of him that I would agree with you. You've mentioned strikeouts. Okay, fine. If he struck out less, that would be better. Okay, that's fine. And if you want to say the last 3 years, he has missed more games than you would like a great player to miss, that's fine. But when he's at the plate, 3 years in a row, led the league in OPS, led the league in OPS, led the league in OPS. That's on base and slugging. That tells you how efficient you are at the plate.
All right. So here's
and by the way, Albert Pujols is the first ballot Hall of Famer, so I'm not saying anything bad about him.
Right.
So I'm not saying anything.
Well, I didn't think you were.
No.
I've got in one of my notes the exact number of years each one led and something. I'm trying to find that, but here's one of the notes I've got that'll make you kind of. Here's what I mean by Andy. Kind of grasp these numbers if you can. So Pujols, Trout has played 8+ years. All right. So in Albert's first 8 years, he's played 40 more games than Trout total. Okay, is that easy to? Yeah, just 40 more games. In the next,
pass them around. I've got the comparison right there.
In the next, I don't need it. I've got it on my phone.
Pass Danny.
I'll look at it. All right, in the next 40 games,
and I want to show you something else.
In the next 40 games, guys, for Trout to get to Albert Pujols, this is what he hit, and he averaged 332 his first 8 years. Averaged his first 8 years 332. Trout's at 305. Okay, so in the next 40 games for Trout to get to 332, he needs 170 hits. In the next 40 games, the Trout needs to go almost 4.5 hits a game.
This is just so whoever's watching can see what I've done. I'm
Chris
comparing Pujols and Trout, and here is the runs per game. The reason I'm pointing that out, now, I think on a previous show, Hunter, you said you were getting in a discussion with somebody, and they were trying to tell you could not compare baseball players from different eras.
His teacher
was my
told him
teacher.
that.
Yeah.
Which
For a
means you both
paper.
disagree with. You can
Yeah.
compare guys from now to the
That's
80s.
that's
and
the
stuff.
only way that's really the
Right.
only way we'd even have a job.
Right.
Is comparison.
That's right. That's right. The reason I've got the graph
There you go.
of the runs per game is that you can see the first 8 years of Albert Pujols. Overall, there was more runs scored in baseball than Trout. With the except now last year the runs scoring shot up, but there around 2014 there wasn't many runs being scored. Now we can speculate as to why. The pitchers might be throwing a little faster. The hitters might be using a little less enhancements to their performance. Whatever it is, there was more scoring from 2001 to 2010 than from 2010 to 2019. So, to take that into consideration, as you said
Now, Chris, wouldn't an
All right.
explanation of that, instead of being ballparks, balls, working out, blah, blah, wouldn't it be say, well, maybe some of those guys were better hitters than the guys nowadays? For example, Chris, if Trout didn't strike out so much, wouldn't he, if he hit the ball and play more, he would be more comparable in some of these numbers as those guys back then. If players today struck out like they did then, like we've put up the years, like
All right.
there'll be like 100-something guys strike out now, and there's only like 35 that struck out like then. So they're not putting the ball in play. They're sitting there swinging and miss. For example, Trout, in 100 times he struck out 7 out of 8 years. Albert Pujols never did that in 19 years. Not once has he struck out 100 times in his career. At the grand total in 9 years, Trout has 1,100. Pujols has 1,200 in 19. Like this year, he might pass him in strikeouts in his 10th year and Albert's 20th year. So in half the time, and for if you real quick, if you did a strikeouts as batting average, you know what Trout would be batting?
I think you said 258.
253.
Oh, 253. All right. No, look, I'm not disputing that. If you say, would he be better
But
off
like I
turning
said,
some of these strikeouts into hits?
I'm not.
Nobody's
like I
arguing
said,
that.
real quick. Like I said, I'm not saying he's not good. I'm saying he's not Pujols or he's not Bonds. And to say someone isn't Barry Bonds to me isn't an insult.
No,
Like,
it's not.
sorry,
an
buddy,
insult.
you're not
But
Barry
you're
Bonds.
not.
You're not Albert Pujols, but you're good, but you're not that. And that's my. So you're talking about what he lead the league in. He's led the league in runs 4 times. You're right. He
Yes.
led the league in RBIs once.
Yes.
Okay, and stolen bases once. That's really the percentages. When you start adding percentages together, I think that's when we start getting into fuzziness. Like, did he lead the league in batting average? Never. Did he lead in OPS? On base percentage? Yes. Did he lead in the league in sluggings? Yes. I'll take those. But when we
Okay.
add them together, I'm not quite a fan of it as much. But look at Pujols. He led the league in hits once. Mike Trout never did. He led the league in doubles once. Mike Trout never did.
Okay.
Listen, look at Mike Trout's doubles. He's never hit 40. Let's count Pujols' doubles. 47, 40, 51, 51, 44, 45, 50. 7 times he's had 40 doubles. I counted 17 St. Louis Cardinals have had a 40 double season. Just different Cardinals, and Mike Trout has never had 40 doubles. Yadier Molina has a 40 double season. He don't run faster than Trout. He don't hit, I would say, better than Trout. But why can't Mike Trout get to 40 doubles or 200 hits? And to me, it's because he's swinging and missing 150 fucking
All right.
times a year.
Okay.
And so who's the better hitter?
Okay.
The guy who hits 330 and doesn't strike out, or the guy who whiffs at 250?
Okay. All right.
That's where I'm going with
Okay.
that.
You say you don't like add numbers together. Okay. Tell you what. Let's separate on base and slugging.
Right, that's fine.
Albert Pujols led in on base his first 8 years this many times. 0. Mike Trout's did it 4 years in a row. Pujols his first 8 years.
Wait a minute, hold on. You said first 8 years. Pujols
first 8
led the
years.
league in his 9th year. So
Well,
that's just 1 year. That's just marking a line,
that's
arbitrary
fine.
line.
Well, but you're comparing Trout's 8 years to Pujols' 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to say it's arbitrary, it's fine. But I'm saying 8 years, first 8 years. Mike Trout has led the AL in slugging 3 times in the first 8 years. Pujols twice. Now, to go to your point, in his 9th year, he also led it.
Right.
So I'm just Pujols is great. So that's not what I'm doing here. But as far as the strikeouts, you made a comment one time that, in your opinion, the worst thing a baseball player can do at the plate is strike out.
Yes.
I would slightly disagree with that. Hitting into a double play is worse. That's worse than a strikeout.
No.
That's getting your guy and your teammate
No,
out.
you're not getting them out. Here's why.
That's worse.
No, it's not. Here's why, Chris. From baseball folks, here's why it's not worse. It's not your fault, one, the guy caught the ground ball. It's not your fault the guy turning getting the first out at second caught the ball or they threw a good play. Remember, when you hit a ball in the air, the only thing a defender has to, this is what you're taught on the baseball field. When you hit the ball in the air, the only thing the defender has to do is catch it. If you hit a ball on the ground, defender has to catch it. He has to throw it. Another guy has to catch it. So to get a double play, number one, a guy has to get on first. Well, that guy on first has got an option. If I don't want to get doubled up and I got a slow guy behind me, what can I do? Steal second base. So if your fat ass is sitting over on first base, not stealing second base, that's your fault. You got doubled up. Because one, you didn't make it to second, and then two, you could have broke up the double play. So look at all the variables just to get a double play before the hitter even gets thrown out at first. Shortstop's got to catch it. He's got to throw it to the second baseman. He's got to catch it, make a good tag and throw with the guy bearing down on him trying to break up the double play. Then the first baseman has to catch it, whether it's a good throw or not. Then the guy gets out. So the sixth thing, that's just top of my head, just ballparking it. So also, if a guy's on third base and less than with no outs, a runner scores in a double play. Right?
Well, I know this.
Can I do a sacrifice fly to right field and they double up the runner at second and the guy on third scores? That's a double play. All of those are better.
I'm glad you mentioned sacrifice flies. There's about
Nobody's ever said that before.
Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned sacrifice flies.
There's about 3 times as many grounded into double plays in baseball as sacrifice flies.
Mm-hmm.
About 3. I'd rather have 1 out than 2. Now, granted, I'd rather have 0 than 1.
Right.
But the reason he hits into double plays, by the way, Albert Pujols 4 times has led the league and grounded into double plays, and according to this, he's the all-time leader at 395.
All these runs Trout scoring, who's knocking him in? All the runs that Trout's scoring, how does he score if he doesn't knock himself in?
Well, he has 285 home runs, so
right.
Those he's knocked himself in.
So 700 times someone else has knocked him in, or 620, 18 times.
Okay.
All right. Albert Pujols is one of those folks. So so you walking or you getting to second in some way doesn't mean nothing if the guys behind them don't knock him in. And that's my argument is that would you rather have Ricky Henderson or Barry Bonds, the whole Ichiro type thing. And to me, once again, I'm not saying Trout's bad, but all right. And let me go through some of these stats real quick that I've got. In the next 40 games, Trout needs 44 runs to tie Albert Pujols. In the next 40 games to tie Albert Pujols in hits, he needs 197 total hits to tie him. In the next 40 games, he needs to hit 89 doubles to tie Albert Pujols. He needs 34 home runs in the next 40 games. And to tie Pujols in RBI, get this, in the next 40 games, Mike Trout needs 971 RBIs in the next 40 games to tie Albert Pujols.
Are we just arguing who's better or who's the all-time great?
No. Here's what I'm saying: is that folks today? No. That's sorry on the.
I'm all right saying Pujols is better than Trout.
You do what?
I'm all right saying Pujols is better than Trout.
That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that when you talk today, like the whole, whether you believe LeBron's better or not, is that today with this stuff to me, the ESPN owns part of the Angels. WAR is a made-up stat where hits count the same as walks if you look at the formula for the most part.
No, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. That's incorrect.
All right, how much more are they weighed? Well, first of all, there's 3 or 4 different WARs.
Okay, now I'll give you that. If you want to disagree with the formula, I'm okay. I don't 100% agree with it either. But I don't know of anybody competent that is saying a walk and a hit are exactly the same.
All right, but when you put it in the formulas, I'm saying when they write when you look at the mathematical formulas, they're kind of weighing them the same, as opposed to
they're not the same weight.
Okay.
All right. But anyway, they're not the same weight.
All right, then, Chris, if I can go, like I said, I can go through and say Pujols has more hits, more doubles, more everything, and then the only thing that Trout has is more walks, and then he's got a better WAR than that. Then that's obviously walks are weighed, and on base is weighed just as much as hits, doubles, home runs, or anything.
Wait
else.
a minute. How much difference are you making between the fact that Albert Pujols is above average defensive first baseman and that Mike Trout is above average defensive center field? Center field is a lot harder to play than first base.
All right, from what you just said right there, Chris, I love you, is the most wrong thing you've ever said in your life. Infield is infinitely more harder than outfield.
Not at the major league level. No, it's not.
Chris.
No, it's not.
Chris. Every
No, it's
infielder, I would say 95% of infielders could play outfield.
Yeah.
What percentage of outfielders can come in and catch ground balls and play infielder? Ozzie Smith could play outfield with his left hand and right hand tied behind his back. Mike Trout can't catch a ground ball.
Albert Pujols could not play, even in his prime, a good center field. There ain't no way.
Okay.
No
That
way.
might be a good point because he's too slow. But what he did do, Chris, he played left field. He played right field. He played third base, and he was drafted as a shortstop, and he played one game at shortstop for the Cardinals. Now, he also has 2 Gold Gloves. Trout has
first base.
Trout has 0.
Okay.
All right, so Albert Pujols at first base has to catch ground balls, has to catch pop-ups, has to catch throws from the other team, from his other players. He has to make throws in the infield. Trout has to catch 3-4 balls a game tops.
The center field covers more ground than any other position.
That's
over
cute.
But no, it does. I mean, that's a fact.
That's cute. It covers a lot of ground. But what I'm saying is Pujols, infielders have to do entirely way more than an outfielder. I've played, put it this way, Chris.
We're not going to agree on this.
Well, that's fine, but you can ask anybody that's played baseball.
I mean,
that infield is entirely harder than
I
outfield.
understand covering the more ground in the outfield, but you got to understand that ball. How much hang time does that ball have for him to be able to cover that amount of ground?
You couldn't pay me enough to get out infield on a major league team.
and then you're covering second base.
Would you rather
you're
play
covered in
left
between
field or third
second
base?
base and
Outfield.
shortstop. And you're saying that the guy in center field would be able to cover that amount of space, like when Derek Jeter or the best second baseman in the league has to make a diving catch and that ball's on the ground coming to hole. There is no hang time to try and get under it. You have to try and get to this ball at this fast. And the same thing with first base. If it's in between the second baseman and the first baseman, if the second baseman can't get there because he's cheated over to second with some sort of formation shift, that first baseman's got to be able to make that step.
The defensive spectrum goes from most difficult to easiest. Catcher, shortstop, second base, center field, third base, left and right field, whichever way you want to do it, then first base. Look,
Chris.
when the Boston
Chris.
Red Sox played your St. Louis Cardinals, what position they put David Ortiz at?
Outfield is so.
They put David Ortiz at first base.
That doesn't make it easier. It's just because he's slow, Chris.
What?
If he was
Well,
fast,
speed
they'd
is
put
part
him-
of it.
If he was
Speed is
fast, they would
part
put
of
him
it.
in the outfield. If he was fast,
If he was fast.
if Mike Trout could catch a ground ball, he'd play infield, wouldn't he?
Why do you want to put Mike Trout at first base when you put him at center field?
Because here's an example. Name, let's see, Ted Williams, King Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, Mike Trout. Let's say Ichiro. Some of the best outfitters we've ever had, right?
Well, Ted Williams was possibly the best hitter ever. He was not a good defensive outfielder.
Okay, however you want to say it. What I'm saying is that those guys are really good ball players and outfielders. They have a combined 0 championships. And I agree with you on the catcher being the hardest one. The Molina brothers have a combined 5 championships. In Yadier Molina's career, he's had one losing season. There was 79 losses. I'll agree with you all day that catcher's the hardest.
Okay, we're agreeing on that. Okay.
And then it's the 4 infield spots. Then the outfield can go out there and pick their nose. I've played every position on a baseball field. I'm telling you, third base is way harder than center field. You're sitting there.
Not according to guys that analyze baseball. It's not. It's not.
The guys that analyze baseball have never played baseball. That's the issue.
I played baseball in elementary school. Now, past that, I did not.
Well, there you go.
I'm just saying.
It's settled.
Listen, Ralph Roberts is the best baseball player around here. He would not set foot. He would touch the infield. He's scared to death of the ball. He's like, I'm going to the outfield. I'm gonna sit out there all day. I'll catch 3 balls.
Jason Giambi, when he was on the A's, played first base. He was not a good defensive player. They stuck him at first base. When you have a DH from the AL and they're coming to the National League, like for the World Series, and you want to put him somewhere, you stick him at first base.
I got
That's
you.
the easiest defensive position.
I got you one, Chris. We're playing church league softball, right?
You do realize church league softball and Major League Baseball are not the same thing.
Right. But we're talking positions.
Okay.
And your team only has 8 players. What's your alignment? Do you take out the first baseman or do you take out the center fielder? Everything I've ever been on with 8 players, they put a guy in right center, a guy in left center, and the first baseman's always there. You need that guy more than you need an outfielder.
So he steps his foot.
Would Trout win a Gold Glove at first base? No. Pujols wouldn't win a Gold Glove in center field. But either way, the fact of doing all that stuff in the infield, way harder than catching fly balls.
Well, we're not going to agree on this. I'm sorry, we're not. I've never seen a defensive spectrum that didn't have first base as the easiest position. I've never sin it. Not at major league baseball
What's
level.
so easy about first base?
You don't have to move. No. Look, you talked about the speed. You said Albert Pujols couldn't play center field because he's not fast enough. Speed is,
but he's
part
quick
of it.
enough to play short, third, and first.
If Albert Pujols was good enough to play decent defensive shortstop, they'd have put him at shortstop.
Well, not necessarily. You got better defenders at shortstop. If you got better somebody at certain positions, Chris, you put them at the different positions they're better at. If they had a really good first baseman, Pujols would have been in right field probably. If Matt Carpenter was still there, they just stuck Pujols in right field. But
all right,
Jeter can play outfield, could he not? I mean, what infielder could not play outfield at one of the positions? That's just.
Most first basemen cannot play a competent center field.
And almost all center fielders could never play first base. That's the thing. You have to be able to catch a ground ball and pick balls. If you've never picked a ball,
you're gonna die.
If you've never picked a ball at first, you're gonna be awful.
Then why do players like Jason Giambi, David Ortiz, not good defenders, they stick them at first base when they have to stick them somewhere? They stick them at first. They're not sticking them in center field.
That's about their speed, not their
ability.
not their hands ability. Chris.
Speed is part of it.
So is catching the actual ball. Like you have to catch the ball. I can put Michael Johnson at first base or Carl Lewis at first base if he dives out of the way of it.
I'm sorry, I can't put speed in baseball. I can't give a sport where all the fastest you have to run is just 90 feet and then you're done. I can't. I'm sorry.
Ricky Henderson, he used his speed to steal bases.
Like,
See, Nelson's really good at picking out one
90 feet
one
and then they
outlier
stood there.
to make his example.
90 feet and then they stood there. That's I'm sorry.
I know,
Look, I like
I
baseball.
gave different
I
examples
like
of
baseball, but baseball is the low tier for me on sports because I can't. I don't give it to people to stand there like for 3/4 of the game.
Well, Bond sat there in left field with a glove about this big. He had a strawberry basket out there in left field. And during his later years, his early years, he could move pretty good. But yeah, they never moved him into first base. Hey, outlier anyway with that. They never moved Bonds into first instead of sticking his big-headed ass out there in his strawberry basket and left.
Because why are you going to waste speed at first base?
He wasn't fast then.
He stole bases. Now, look.
He stopped stealing and getting doubles later in the year.
Barry Bonds was faster when he was young and thin,
Yeah,
rather than when he was all
230 pounds.
Right, when he was all jacked up. But he could still steal. He just didn't steal much.
Trout has been intentionally walked 100 times in his career. Barry Bonds in 2004 was intentionally walked 120 times.
Well, you're probably talking about the best hitting one.
He was walked with bases loaded.
Barry Bonds' back-to-back season might have had the 2 best hitting seasons ever. One time he set the major league record for on base, and 1 year he set it for slugging. I mean,
Trout was on pace to be Rafael Palmeiro in home runs. How many RBIs you say he had now, Andy?
Oh,
which one?
Speaking of Palmeiro,
Yes, sir.
you were talking about Albert Pujols winning a couple of Gold Gloves at first base. Can you explain to me in 1999 how Rafael Palmeiro won the Gold Glove by playing 28 games there?
I don't know.
Okay, can you explain that?
I don't think Edgar Martinez should be in the Hall of Fame at all.
Because he's a DH.
Right. He didn't play baseball. He didn't play baseball.
He played hitter.
The only year he didn't play baseball, the only year he wasn't DH, he hit like 230 or 240 or something. It was bad. It wasn't even good. It wasn't.
All right, look, No
The year he
argument.
had to catch a pass. The year he had to
Okay.
catch a baseball. He
No,
didn't.
no
You
argument.
gotta go.
I gotta go.
Okay.
We'll finish up in a few
Y'all
minutes.
finish up. Go ahead. I gotta go, gentlemen.
Okay. All right.
Hey, appreciate you guys coming on the show. Don't be afraid to tell
Enjoyed
your
it.
friends. I always tune in, like, and
All right.
subscribe.
I'll agree with you that a DH, that's going to be easier than playing the field off.
You know why I think they put him in? So they could get Ortiz in without any problems. Because, I mean, I mean, you're in there to hit just the DH. That's just bullshit. and real quick, I'll make the Yankee fans real mad. Mariano Rivera should not be a 100% vote Hall of Famer. Nobody should.
Nobody should.
Nobody should. If Babe Ruth ain't, nobody should. If Willie Mays ain't, nobody should. In fact,
well, but maybe they should have.
I tell you
Maybe they
what.
should
I
have.
tell you what I want you to do, Chris. Go look
Okay.
at Trevor Hoffman's and Mariano's numbers. I think Mariano played maybe one more year than Hoffman or something like that. But like, they were almost exactly the same across the board in almost every stat except one thing. One wore a Yankees hat, and the other wore a San Diego hat. One gets in on 100%, and the other barely squeaks in.
If you're talking regular season, Mariano Rivera versus Trevor Hoffman is somewhat close.
But you can't hold that against Hoffman because he played for the Padres.
I remember Hoffman blowing some saves. Mariano Rivera is the career leader in playoff saves. Mariano Rivera's playoff ERA is ridiculous.
Right.
It's ridiculously low. In the playoffs, Mariano was way better.
But get
in the
this.
regular season, it was somewhat
All right,
close.
Andy, I got something for you. So, how many saves do you think Mariano averages a year? Was it around 40? Is that what good closed in his career? I can't remember.
Probably played 20 years. He was
Hey, what would he end up with? 600? I mean, I could look.
Let's
but-
say 40. Let's say you say 40 games.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. All right.
Times 20 years, that's
Well, that's 800. They don't have 800. Let's
Okay.
say 40 times 15, 600.
okay.
So
I
somewhere,
think 40 is the number on the average that he might have had. So
Okay.
let's say a good year you get 40 saves, right?
Okay. All right.
So you help your team win 1/4 of the games by pitching in getting 1/18 of the outs.
One inning.
Right. So
Okay.
Andy, a guy who only helped his team contributed 1 out of every 4 games and only 1 out of every 9 innings in those 4 games, got 100% of the votes. That's the slight issue I have with the 100%. I'm not saying he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I don't
Same
mind
thing
that.
with Trout. I'm not saying he's not good.
Okay,
But
okay.
how does a closer, it's not even Mariano, it's a closer, someone who's only played a small percentage of his team's actual innings,
He played
Get the-
1,200 innings.
get every vote
Every
ever.
vote.
He played how many innings?
1,200.
How many innings is this season? 9 times 162.
I can't do math.
1,400. So he played less than one
he played
season.
one season.
Than a regular. Think about it. That's my point. Mariano Rivera played less than one whole total season of baseball in his career, and he's 100% votes for Hall of Fame. That's the issue. You see what I'm saying with that?
Well, I think some other guys should have been 100%.
Right.
So,
Now that's a different. That's a different question.
right.
All right. So real quick, if Trout finishes off, he would finish in RBIs. I was trying to get this before yesterday. I got about half of them done. It was 1,670 RBIs. That would put him at 31st between Gary Sheffield and Sammy Sosa, slamming Sammy Sosa. Folks ahead of him: Cabrera, Cal Ripken Jr., Tommy Ray Jackson, Big Frank Thomas, Adrian Beltre, Honest Wagner, Ortiz, Frank Robinson, Simmons. Andy, you said he's got 285 home runs. Is that right? Is that what's in front of me?
Yeah.
I think that puts him in that's where I was being by Palmeiro. I think he puts him right near Palmeiro in all-time home runs. If he, what I'm extrapolating that
Okay.
he's played 9 years. Now other teams, he's only played 8 full seasons, but
Right.
since the other guys, I don't know when they got hurt, missed years. I wasn't looking up everybody else.
No, that's fine.
I just did 9 years.
No, that's fine. That's
So,
fine.
but
That's
what
fine.
I did it out, I averaged it to 20. So if he's got 285 divided by 9 times by 20 is how I
Okay.
did it. This is
Okay.
where he would rank. Is what I mean if he goes on.
Okay.
If he plays 20 years, same pace he's got now for the first 9. Are we following?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Is that
Okay.
is that math sound kind of?
That's
Is that
fine.
fuzzy math sound?
Sound-ish. Yeah.
That's okay.
That would put him at 5.
Between Albert and King Griffey.
What is it? 285.
I got the 633.
570.
I got 633.
What's 285 times 2? Oh, I didn't do that. I did that was stupid. My fault. You're right. 289
Okay.
divided by 9. You
Okay.
put him at where?
633. So,
So that would put him right at
Under
Ken
Albert.
Griffey Jr. area. If he continues the same pace
Same page.
for 20 years, he's around 6 or 7 between Pujols and Griffey. If he continues the same
Big
pace
if.
for
That's-
20 years.
Well,
That's-
I mean,
Like
think
it
about
happened
it.
in
Think about
next
that's what I'm
2
saying.
years, yeah.
You've got to do everything you've done now
And you're getting older.
again, then 2 more years past
Yeah.
that because
While
he's
you're
only
getting
been in the Elite
Right.
9.
While you're getting older.
Liar getting older.
well, if you look on that sheet at Albert Pujols, his numbers with the Angels aren't
Right.
nearly as good as they were with the Cardinals. I mean, it's not even close.
So my thing with Pujols is his 11 years of the Cardinals, I think, is the greatest right-handed hitter in 11
It's up
11
there.
years to start ever.
That's a,
Think about this. He hit the 330. You know that stat, the 330, 100, 100 club, whatever. The 330, 30, 100 RBI.
okay.
I got to find this because it tells. I've got exact. All right. Trout has never. Here you go.
Bonds and Mays.
Do what?
Maybe 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases, 100 RBIs, and 100 runs. That was
Well,
the-
no, he's not talking about stolen bases. He's saying average home runs.
Oh.
And
You've had 30 home runs in a season, 100 RBIs, and batted 300.
Okay.
Trout's never done that. Pujols did that his first 10 years. I think 10. Let's make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. His 11th year, he batted 299, just missing the cut, and 99 home runs. So his first, 10 years? He batted, or 9 years, 330, 30, and all right, real quick. Mike Trout's best ever is 326. Pujols did that 8 times. Mike Trout's best ever is 129 runs. Pujols did that 3 times. Mike Trout's best ever hitting is 190 hits. Pujols did that 4 times. Trout 39. These are just in St. Louis, by the way, numbers, not non-Angels.
Right.
Trout 39 doubles. Pujols did that 8 times. Trout 45 home runs. Pujols did that 5 times. 111 RBIs. Pujols did that 8 times. 122 walks by Trout. Albert Pujols never did that, so got him on the walk. Strikeouts. Trout has had 7 100K seasons. Pujols never. You know, I told you that the Trout strikeout percentage is 25%. Adam Wainwright's is 29%.
Yet he still leads the league in OPS
They should-
3
they
years
should-
in a row
they should-
with all those strikeouts.
They should put Trout in center field. No, what Trout's doing is taking a shit ton of pitches. That's how he ends up in 0-2 counts and striking out and then walks. He's trying to get to walks.
Well, what's
and
wrong
get
with
on-
that?
I'm just saying he's taking a shit ton of pitches.
Well, that's good. If you're wearing the other team's starting pitcher out, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, there is a problem with that. Here's why. Here's the problem, Chris. Is Trout the best player on the team? On the Angels.
Best position player, yes.
Okay, so he's the best player on the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your best player up there drawing walks and wearing the pitcher out, or do you want your best player? Do you want Barry Bonds up there? Hey, Barry, make sure you just let's wear him out a little bit, or do I want you swinging the bat?
So you're going to make the same criticism they made of Ted Williams. That's the same criticism people had of Ted Williams when he let that ball a few inches off the outside of the plate and he'd keep the bat on the shoulders and take a walk. So you're going to criticize him for that. But you're not going to criticize the GM for not having competent batters behind you.
Pujols is behind him. He's knocked him in 600 times.
Pujols has not been a great hitter for the Angels.
He's knocked him in 600 times.
Andy, look at Pujols' numbers, St.
Well,
Louis
he
versus
got old.
Angels. Well, I know, but
He's still pretty good.
he's I wouldn't say good at this point. I'd say he's
All right,
he's an
he's okay right now. All right, here's your question. All right, tell me if these numbers are comparable.
what's that?
287 to 285, just in a single season.
Okay.
Batting average 287, 285.
Okay. Yeah.
36 homers to 30 homers. 111 RBIs to 105 RBIs. 173 hits to 173 hits. So pretty close to season.
They're somewhat comparable.
All right. 39 doubles to 50 doubles. And then the last one, 184 Ks to 76 Ks. Now wait a minute before you go. The first numbers I was reading, the top number was Trout's 2014 MVP season. Okay?
14.
Mike Trout's 2014 MVP season.
Okay.
The other numbers I was reading was Albert Pujols' 2012 season in Anaheim or LA on the same team. Trout won MVP with his numbers. Pujols was pretty much the exact same numbers, but better in strikeouts and doubles, got 9th place. 2 years,
wait,
2 years apart. 2012 Pujols, 2014 Trout. Trout won MVP. Pujols finished 9th with almost the exact same numbers.
Finished 17th.
Who did? Pujols?
Pujols 2012. I'm showing MVP 17th.
Let's see.
2012.
It might be. 2000. Let's see. That's the year he hit 285. Yep, that's it. That's it. All right, so he finished 17th.
Okay, hold up.
With the same numbers.
All right, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So
Exact same damn numbers, Andy.
No, the numbers aren't the same. 2014. Let's see here.
He's going to start adding up numbers. Watch this.
Okay. On base, 377 versus Pujols, 343. Trout's better. Slugging, 561 versus Pujols, 516. Trout's is better. Trout plays center field. More efficient.
Don't mean shit.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Trout can't play first base. Pujols can play outfield.
Trout could play first base better than Pujols could play center field. I'm saying that right now.
Would he win a Gold Glove? Or 2? Isn't it easier to win a Gold Glove in the outfield than it is in the infield, in center field? If you're a center fielder, you get 3 chances.
Rafael Palmeiro won a Gold Glove at first base playing 28 games in 1999.
Hey,
So you tell me.
I've done told you how I feel about the
me.
voting stuff, but
Anyway, all right. Have we beat this horse to death?
maybe,
Okay.
maybe,
All right.
maybe.
All right.
Yeah, Andy. So same numbers. Hey, I'll let you look at them. You can just look at them right there real quick. All right, let me wrap some stuff up, Chris.
Okay.
Make sure I go over some of this. Hunter needed to go to the XFL. He left. I don't have to talk about that. We can do that in the morning anyway. We should fire Roy and Coach K.
No, we shouldn't.
We should. I feel very, very. We should fire Roy Williams. I'm so.
He's got
I'm
you
so
3
full
now.
of that one.
Andy,
That could be a topic of when Roy eventually retires of his own accord. We can talk about who we should go after.
Kenny Smith.
No,
Kenny Smith. He'll get the recruits. Every kid in the world knows who Kenny Smith is that growing up watching basketball right now.
we can hire him to be the recruiting coordinator.
well, now, as far as the topic of conversation for another time, as far as who will replace Roy and who will replace Coach K, now that could be an interesting discussion.
Duke might get kicked out of the ACC after K retires because they'll just drop straight off the map. It just depends if they keep paying how much they keep paying them under more than Clemson, Chris. That's all that matters. You know that.
Here we go.
Hey, that's I'm just reading off the FBI report. That's all I can do is just do what the Clemson guys were saying in the FBI report. So
Clemson's just mad because, correct me if I'm wrong, they've never won a regular season or ACC tournament title.
I don't know if they're mad because they spent all their money on football players instead of basketball players that go to church.
Well, hey, now they've won some titles in football. You can't complain about that.
You've heard about their church down there? They slipping the money in.
Mm-mm.
That's how they get. The offering plate. Andy goes backwards at this church in Clemson. I don't know if you've ever seen or heard about that.
I need to go to that church.
Yeah, well, they're not. You're not.
They don't need a 42-year-old DB.
No, they do not need any of that whatsoever. All right, folks. I think that's going to do it. Let's see. Anything else I want to say? I guess that's it. All right, thanks, Chris, and then Andy.
All right,
coming in
enjoyed
today.
it. All right.
Folks, you can download Apple and Spotify and all the other places. As usual, watch it live on Facebook and watch the replays on YouTube. Thanks, everybody, for watching on KTCBroadcasting.com.